What's up, guys? Welcome to CESYK Live. Tonight, we're back on the 1L topic. Guys, we're going to beat this one until it's dead, and we've done it. This is what, the fifth episode, I think. What's tonight? Up, guys? Welcome to CESYK Live. Tonight, we're back on the 1L topic. Guys, we're going to beat this one until it's dead, and we've done it. This is what, the fifth episode, I think. What's up, guys? Welcome to CESYK Live. Tonight, we're back on the 1L topic. Guys, we're going to beat this one until it's dead, and we've done it. This is what, the fifth episode, I think. What's up, guys? Welcome to CESYK Live.
I don't hear it, so it might be me.
We're back on the 1L topic. Guys, we're going to beat this one until it's dead, and we've done it. This is what, the fifth episode, I think. What's up, guys? Welcome to CESYK Live.
I don't hear it, so it might be me.
We're back on the 1L topic. Guys, we're going to beat this one until it's dead, and we've done it. This is what, the fifth episode, I think. What's up, guys? Welcome to CESYK Live.
I don't hear it, so it might be me.
We're back on the 1L topic. Guys, we're going to beat this one until it's dead, and we've done it. This is what, the fifth episode, I think. What's up, guys? Welcome to CESYK Live.
I don't hear it, so it might
Check. Okay. Are we good? I think. Were you guys hearing that? It was so loud to me that I couldn't even. It might have been me. Check.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
Okay. Are we good? I think. Were you guys hearing that? It was so loud to me that I couldn't even. It might have been me. Check.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
Okay. Are we good? I think. Were you guys hearing that? It was so loud to me that I couldn't even. It might have been
listening to it just now. It sounds fine.
Check.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
Okay. Good, I think. Okay. Okay, I think we're good now. It was I was getting all kinds of feedback. I don't know where it came from, but I think we're good. But we're going to try this again. Welcome to CESYK Live. Tonight we're going to do it again with the 1L stuff. Tonight we're going to dive into the commercial work. This one's going to get deep, guys. It's going to go with all the way. We're going to start just like we always do. We're going to start with your batch ticket. We're going to talk about what's in your mix. We're going to start with prep, all the way to practices, the pouring it and finishing it and curing it, and maybe a little bit of maintenance. And we're going to go through it all with you guys here tonight with this panel. We got an awesome panel picked out. As always, my friend, Mr. Mike Griffin. How are you tonight, Mike?
What's up, guys? I'm doing really good. I'm really excited about this panel we've got.
We really appreciate you around here. We appreciate you around here. This group would not go off the way that it does without you. So, again, thanks for being here tonight. And we'll go to my side here, Mr. Matt Gross. How are you tonight, my friend?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's good to have you here tonight. And your commercial experience is going to be good to help dive into this, and you can share a little bit of your brain. And it's a pleasure to have you. Down there, just below Matt there, Jason Proctor, another expert in my book when it comes to the finishing. It's another pleasure to have you here tonight. How are you?
I'm doing great. Appreciate the opportunity again, and look forward to this one.
Good, man. It's gonna be fun to pick your brain and get a little bit of knowledge from you. Just below me there, Mr. Zach West, another returning member to the panel. I love the background, Zach. It's great. How are you tonight?
Not too bad.
That's good. We got to get some shirts made with that, Mike. We need to have that put on our CESYK gear. It's great. All right, just to his side there, Mr. Steve Lloyd, another expert in my opinion, and it's going to be great to be able to pick his mind about this and hear his concerns. How are you tonight, Steve?
I'm great. You're looking forward to tonight.
Good. Yeah. Ben is in here. I don't know. He's on mute there. There he is. Mr. Ben Weiss, another expert all across the board here in finishing and placing concrete. And again, it's a pleasure to have you here tonight. Once again, Mr. Ben Weiss, how are you?
Doing wonderful as usual, so thank you.
Good. Tonight, a new member to the panel, commercial, finishing, placing, all the above. This dude's all over the place. If you haven't seen any of the internet stuff, Mr. Zeb Neese. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you, Rocky?
I'm good. It's a pleasure to have you in, man, and be able to add your expertise and your concerns to the panel tonight. So
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
and that last but definitely not least, all the way down here in the bottom, Mr. Jason Beachy. You guys probably don't know him as Jason. You probably know him as True Line Construction. You see him all over the group. He's super active, super intelligent, and it's a pleasure to have him to the panel here tonight. Also, Jason, how are you, buddy?
Doing great. Thank you for having me. Look forward to it.
Good, good.
Rocky, you want to? A couple people are saying maybe check your audio.
My audio, they're not hearing us at
Can't hear
all.
you. It's cutting out or something.
Check. Checking all my. Let's go to my end. Check. Might be my internet.
You've been coming through. You've been coming through just fine.
Okay, you guys can hear me though, right?
We can hear you. It may just be the interface, Rocky, so we'll just have to watch it tonight.
Sure. And they don't want to hear me anyway. They want to hear you guys. So I'm just here to get this out here. But all right, guys. So let's dive right into it. Commercial work. So obviously, from the very beginning on this, the commercial work, we know that a lot of what happens on the commercial side is already been spec'd. It's already in prints. The guy who's actually placing and finishing, we understand a lot of times he doesn't have all the knowledge, or not necessarily the knowledge, but all the say-so on what's going into the mixes and things like that. So we know this, but what we go over tonight is going to be the best things that you could do if you had the knowledge or if you had the power to be able to change these things. And we're going to go over some of the things that you can do to talk to the people to get the things changed to be able to handle this 1L stuff. So, Mike, where do you think we should start? Start right in. Let's start with our batch ticket, like we always have. What's in the mix? I know that Zach, you always have some really good input on this. You want to dive into that?
I think it actually starts a little bit before that. I mean, for most of us in the commercial world, it starts at bid time. Your estimators really need to be diving into those specs and looking for anything screwy, especially admixtures that are going to pull stuff away really high. Limestone contents, really low water cement ratios, all of that stuff needs to be at least earmarked pre-construction, pre-bid, not even pre-construction, pre-bid. And you may not be able to alter things to put out a competitive bid, but as soon as that thing's awarded, start working on it.
Yeah, I would even say at that point, if you see something weird in a project request or a bid request or something like that, or the initial specs, you can RFI stuff to ask questions, and don't be afraid to get out there and ask it first. Like, hey, is this really what you mean? Because this is bad. Do you really mean this? And make the engineer question himself at that point and ask why. Why is that bad? And
yeah, we just had a corrosion inhibiting admixture with calcium chloride. They were both specced in the same section. So, I mean, things get missed.
Yeah, I will say from the engineering side, there's a lot of copy paste. So those guys don't actually know. They're just picking some spec that they've had from 1980. And they're still, God, it was like a couple days ago, I saw one with some admix that hasn't even been made since like 95 or something like that. And it was still in one of their specs. So it's like an obvious copy paste job. So you do have the opportunity pre-bid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to.
Sure, super valid points there. Okay, so definitely we need to start looking at stuff pre-bid. Then that's huge, right? So asking questions. So what are we looking for? So what are some things that are going to be red flags that we're looking for as we're looking through this? What could be a screwy thing, or what are some chemicals that could start throwing red flags right now?
For me, I look at the porosity inhibiting, corrosion inhibiting, internal curing, things like that are gonna utilize water that we're already short on. I mean, we're walking a really tight line right now, and you don't want anything else that's gonna draw any of that water to do what it needs to do.
Okay, good.
I mean, I'm really looking at mix. I'm looking at the mix. I'm looking at what they're wanting, the water cement ratio, the amount of powder in the mix, I'm not in the depth to as it as Zach and Sam when it comes to all the knowledge they've got. But what I do is I look at the certain points that I can raise a question about and refer that back to, hey, you're kind of outside the guidelines of ACI here. What do you want me to do? You know?
Sure, and we'll kind of talk on ACI a little bit later on here, and that'll be that's kind of some gray area right now with that, so.
like.
Yep, but what was that? Did you guys hear that? Oh, that's strange too.
That was like a ghost of Zach from like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Zeb, what are you guys looking at? So you're looking at are you looking at mixed design when you get your first pre-bid papers or?
Absolutely. No, we definitely do. And somebody said, a lot of times you'll see this copy and paste. A lot of times these engineers, they're doing the same thing they've been doing for years. And what I've found, we do have to ask those questions and raise them, and they're always open to our opinion. What do you suggest? We'll get with our ready mix company, get their involvement, and we'll bring the concerns. This is what we're seeing. Hey, this water cement ratio is, it needs to be adjusted, or we just try to talk through it way before we ever step foot on the job. And I think anything, it don't matter what we're doing in this construction industry, it's all about the pre-planning. It's all about before we ever even start digging footings. We've got our submittals in place. We're comfortable with the product we're using. We're not going in there blinded and just waiting for issues to arise. We're trying to get ahead of them before they're ever an issue.
Okay.
I guess one thing that we didn't touch on yet is it goes a little bit beyond just the mix design itself, especially for your pavings. Anything outside, look and see what your sub base is going to be. If they're allowing recycled concrete underneath all your paving, you better plan on losing additional water that you normally don't plan on. Some things like that you have to look outside of your scope a little too, to include some precautionary, I guess, a buffer for those things.
What about you, Jason? Are you guys breaking that stuff down? I know you guys are all over the country, so are you having the opportunity to look at this stuff before you get there?
Oftentimes they wouldn't offer it, but we're starting to more and more on jobs we're just requiring it. I mean, sometimes you have to almost be a bad guy to get some of the stuff. Everybody wants you to just show up and get it done quick, but I've gotten into trouble doing that. And so yes, we're trying to do more and more of the work beforehand. A little to the point here about the pre-bid stuff. I come up in a design build background between the ages of 16 and 20. I can tell you how many times I would go to our engineer that literally designed all our jobs, and he would ask me what I wanted copied and pasted.
Oh.
So I can build that job exactly the fastest, cheapest way for me. There's 10 different ways to do everything. Like you said, they are just copying and pasting. So knowing that, hopefully that'll help me as we do more turnkey to RFI that stuff.
Sure. Good. So this is a little bit of good for you too, to be able to add a little bit to your toolbox. So, all right. So we're looking at things pre-mix or pre-bid and that kind of thing. So now we're kind of getting some things worked out. What are we wanting? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the mix. What are we shooting for? The water content ratios. Let's break that down, guys. Again, Zach, you're really good at this. You have some good expert advice in this. You want to dive into that, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about just trying to establish a minimum of, let's say, 0.48. That got people that want to go in deeper. It goes a lot deeper than just that, but that is a very safe number with what we're seeing with mixed designs across the country. But there's about a 90% chance that a ready mix guy is going to submit a mix the first time that should probably be rejected by you. It shouldn't even make it to the engineer because they're going to come at you with 28 ounces of water reducer, and they're going to be light on a lot of. They're trying to hit a target that happens in a cylinder, and we're trying to put things on the ground and build things in real life. So, and not that they won't work with you, but they're trying to get exactly what they want. So work with them and meet in the middle on that stuff. For people that are in areas that have a lot of dense aggregates and quartzes and things like that, your water cement ratio is probably going to be able to get just a little bit lower than what we're talking about, but be comfortable with it. Know what you're pouring. Have an experience. Those people like Jason who go all around, that's tough because from one spot to the next, the concrete reacts totally different.
Sure. Yeah, Jason, go ahead. You got a question or you want to hop in?
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in on this. So we got to kind of rewind just a little bit. So it was touched on briefly. I know that pre-bid in my experience when I was still running work and with companies and we were looking at work that we were bidding on, there was always lots of questions. And more often than not, I would catch a high tolerance area in a building that was based off of some 3 foot by 3 foot ceramic tile that are very unforgiving, but it's not specified. I would catch, and it won't even say it. You just have to know. You have to look at specific things, right? So the deeper you can dig in the beginning, and if you have questions, and everybody's said it so far, if you have questions, you got to ask them, because what you're going to do is you're going to give them pricing for a 30-25, and the next thing you know, you got a a 50-30 or an 80, depending on what you're looking at in the middle of a building. And it happened to me specifically. So, I mean, that's the best example I can give. It's just, you guys got to ask more questions, and you got to look, don't just look at your part of the scope. That's the second part I want to say. I read and looked at everything. If I can get my hands on electrical, plumbing, whatever, flooring, all of it. Because somewhere along the lines, it's going to be all relative to you and what else is going to go into your work. So you can't have enough information.
Well, specifically for middle market guys, we work in the middle market a lot. If you're on a project and you see luxury vinyl plank flooring, I guarantee you there is a scope gap, because you're probably 35-25 and they need an 8-10 to warranty their product. And we get ahead of it every time, but don't get caught in the middle.
There's a lot of guys that do not get ahead of that, and that's why I said it.
They don't. Exactly. We do. I'm bidding off Division 3. I don't care about Division 9. They can put all the 1/8 inch and 10 foot they want to. I'm not pouring that. It's going to be checked. I'm not doing that crap. But a lot of guys, you're exactly right. I mean, I got a call from a guy the other day that wanted me to help in on some floors. He said, we got a really high floor number. I said, well, he said, super flat. I said, well, tell me your numbers. He said, well, it's a F-Min 100. And I said, how did you bid it? He said, we just bid it like regular. I said, man, that's cost you $25 a foot. But I mean, they really don't. And you go back to engineers. I've had engineers that don't even know what 1L semen is. They said, we're not pouring that. I said, you're going to pour it around here because that's all we can get. Yeah. But I mean, it starts it starts when those drawings, when everything comes out, it starts right then. And you've got to, I'm not going to a pre-pour meeting unless we've got that already ironed out before we even get there. Sure. I'm not playing the games.
One more thing to add to that. So what I ended up developing was a relationship with my estimating teams and in multiple places, and actually explain to them, hey, when you guys are running through these projects and you see something you don't understand, do not blanket it. Send me a PDF. Hey, take a look at this. What do you think? What do you see? Right? You may not be able to look at everything, but if you start to talk to your teams that are doing your estimating, you can create that relationship where they're going to reach out to you, because ultimately they're going to count on you to do it anyway. So talk to them, figure it out so that you can see that stuff.
Jason, I've seen specs that had F numbers plus an 1/8 inch and 10 foot. Had both of them in there.
Oh, absolutely.
No. We're not going there.
More is better.
Hey, there's Don.
There you go, Don. You've seen it. They want, but they want it. I said, nope, we're Division 3 concrete.
What Jason just mentioned about developing that relationship with the estimators is pretty critical. We have a lot of them that they don't really know what they're bidding sometimes. They see something on a drawing that says 1/2 inch plus or minus over 300,000 square feet, and they think we're just going to go Viberstrike it. And then you had to actually break down to them what they just bid after we had awarded the job.
One point to input specifically there on some of the stuff that Steve and Jason just talked about. It goes into also, I guess, really the overall, but that's where having the ASCC our position statements, Steve, that Division 3 versus Division 9,
Yeah.
so that you're actually there is assistance and support out here. I mean, we've fought these battles as a team, and we have documentation to back it up and support it. And it's using all of the ACI and the iCry and everything all together as a whole and understanding that stuff.
You want to kind of touch on the ASCC a little bit, Ben, while we're in here?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Little ASCC, since I am on the membership. Well, it's not really the membership committee anymore. So, but ASCC commercial. If you're not an ASCC member, look into it. Talk with Steve. Talk with Matt. With Zach. With all the guys here. With Rocky. My goodness, talk with Rocky. However, but as an ASCC member, I've been an associate member of ASCC for a long time now, over 20 years involvement, 25 actually, and ASCC is support unlike anywhere else in the industry as far as having technical representation that is going to give you that translation of what those ACI documents are if you don't understand them as a young or a smaller contractor. And you've got a brotherhood that will actually help you. You can call Steve Lloyd. We preach this at a couple of the first, and I think it needs to kind of be a constant thing for us that we talk about. You need to have a group, your lifelines, if you will, of who you're going to call. None of us, I don't care where you're at in the industry, we all have to reach out at some time or another. And we have an amazing group as the ASCC. But the old guys of the industry is part of it, but really there's so many of the smart guys, and being able to call Steve and having that technical representation at just a phone call away, it matters. It does matter. So those 48 position statements, I think they are now, and more on the way.
We have 48 already.
Yeah.
48.
I believe we're at 48 now. Well, we retracted one though, didn't we, Steve?
Yeah, we had to take it. Yeah, don't get me started.
Hey, but as in any family, you've got things that are you've got to retract and take it's be a family. This is having that support. So no, thank you very much for allowing that real quick, Rocky.
Absolutely.
I didn't do it justice at all, but really I think that's the beginning of it.
If
So
people want to look into it further, where can they go?
So that'd be ascconline.org, I believe. We can put it in the notes. We'll put it in the show notes, Mike, and give a link there. So we'll definitely put that stuff in there. So thank you, Rock.
And we definitely need more hands-on concrete guys involved. We really and truly do. We've got good people, but we really need to. We are the voice of the concrete contractor,
and that's what that's about. It's building the voice of the guys' boots in the mud.
Big or small, we're here for all. I mean, seriously.
Yep.
Right on. So there's the ASCC guys who kept that out, but as they were saying, the position statements that come from that could be huge in your toolbox for bidding these, as well as going into these with the information you need.
Well, and for any of these guys that are having problems with engineers or things like that, I mean, reach out to probably anybody here, and we probably have something that has already been prepared. Just, I mean, go in confident, let them know that you have some information that could help, influence why you're trying to do what you're trying to do. And I mean, there's plenty of people out there that are willing to help too.
Definitely. This whole panel, obviously, the whole CESYK group, that's what it's been founded on. It's helping each other. So don't be afraid to post. Tag any of the guys on the panel, and you're going to get a lot of good information. Some you may have to weed through, but for the most part, you're going to get some good information. Okay, guys. So let's go into maybe prep a little bit. Again, we know that a lot of this is already spec, but what are some things we're looking for, or maybe could be red flags in the subgrade that we would have to deal with this 1L?
Minimum 96% compaction. Minimum.
So you're saying high compaction is going to be really good and crucial.
Well, the floor, your floor is what your substrate is. A good floor has a good substrate and a good mix design. Everything else we put in it is just for insurance. But good mix design and a good substrate, and you're going to have a really good floor.
And your numbers depend on that substrate completely.
Yes, yep.
That's proven by doing a dipstick 3 days after the pour or a week after the pour. You're going to be you come up with different results.
Yeah.
So the substrate moves as soon as it gets loaded and surcharged. It moves.
Good, valuable information to keep. So super high compaction. What else are we looking for? Is there specific materials, or maybe vapor barrier that we're looking for? Does that matter, or does that play a factor in this?
Vapor barrier is 100% going to matter when it comes to 1L specifically. I mean, having that, don't let the water out, right? That's what we're preaching as water, and you got to find a way to keep it in. And gravity says down first, so in a slab, you definitely want to make sure it can't get out through the bottom.
That you don't have to go. I don't go with the high dollar stuff. I just do a 10 mil poly. But you want that slab to be able to slide a little bit. You don't want it restricted. You want that slab to move. When the slab goes in restriction, it's going to crack somewhere. So what we want to do is we want that substrate for a couple things to keep that water in. But a lot of places right now are required for you to use that. Now I don't like the heavy duty stuff. I want something to that I can lay down and back trucks over that do what we got to do. But we want that slab to be able to slide and hold that moisture.
You want to talk about that? The idea of that sliding and that movement. Why are we wanting that? What is causing that?
It's shrinkage.
Well, if you look at the bottom of a core that has been poured on rock without a vapor barrier under it, you're going to find about a ½ inch of matrix along with aggregate stuck into the base course. So number one, you're losing a bit of your matrix and you're losing a bit of your volume. And that answers a lot of questions on why am I short? It happens. So when you put it on a vapor barrier, none of the matrix finds its way into the crevices. It stays in the section. It's a big deal, and it works if you do. Yeah, I've got some cores the core I posted the other day has had a vapor barrier that I've never seen before. It was very, very thick, and it was like a quilted material, and it was absolutely vitreous on the bottom core. It was as smooth on the bottom of the core as it was on the troweled surface. So you didn't lose anything. You didn't lose water, you didn't lose matrix, and you didn't get stones sticking to your base course. Once they stick to the base course, that's where the friction and the torsion comes in. And as soon as that base course is surcharged with the load, it's going to start to move. And if your slab can slide along with it as it moves, you'll minimize your cracking. If it can't slide, it'll crack right off the corners. Corners first, and off of columns, etc.
And you always want to be sure that vapor barrier is flat. Don't have any creases in it, because that crease, and I'm just telling you what I do. A lot of people want to use two. I don't like two because you get a lot of different variations in creasing. People say it gives you more slide. I don't need but a little bit of slide, because that slab's not going to shrink but so much. But if you want to be sure it's flat, because if that thing balls up and you get a little upturn like that, you could get a bottom up crack from that.
Yep.
That's a zip strip on the bottom, not on the top, is what that makes. Is like a zip strip on the bottom instead of being in the top.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So it has to be both tight and flat. Yep.
Yeah.
To kind of put it in understandable, if you've ever ran a pan on a 4-foot walk behind, that's essentially what's going on the bottom of the slab, right? That pan's smooth to the touch, right? The concrete's smooth to the touch, but the friction that's being made is far beyond what anybody can believe. That's the vapor barrier really
You're
helps.
right. You got to be a man to run a
That's a
pan
good
on
example. That's a good example.
That's pretty good.
You just need to have sideway pants. You got to be comfortable with having your back pocket in your front. That's it.
You got to be able to undo your belt from the back.
Yeah. So, Steve, one of the things that you mentioned there about that, Ward Malish and I had quite an in-depth conversation about that one time, and he said that it's not respected enough at all about that. He said those are the same as a reentrant corner from the bottom. He said the same way that you've got a reentrant corner with a doorway or anything like that, you've actually created that stress riser from the bottom.
Yeah, I mean but I mean, if you remember, and I'm sure some of you guys remember, but we used to cut the next day, wet cut. Well, we'd be sawing along and look over 2 foot, and the crack popped up. The reason being, that slab had already started cracking from the bottom. So that's why we have early entry right now. And a lot of times with this 1L, I pour a lot of steel fibers, and you don't want raveling, but now they're saying, hey, well, you got to give it a little bit longer, this, that, and other. Man, we need to be cutting those slabs. That's why I had a steel fiber manufacturer say, well, Steve, just with what you're doing and the temperatures, you might want to wait till the next day. I said, no, that ain't happening. I said, I'm not waiting till the next day. And I said, so what are we doing? Because we got all this and all that, and this type of fiber, it pops out. I said, no, we can't do that. We have to cut the same day. I mean, I do. I mean, and this is just me talking. This is what works for me.
Sure. And that's exactly what we want.
It could be working something different for somebody else. I can only tell you what I got going on. And we have been on these slabs, been very successful with these.
Well, Steve, I'll tell you, the color of the trowels of a couple of them that you hold, I think we're missing what you got to say.
Well, look, I couldn't have done it without my people. I got the best people in the world. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Steve Boyd couldn't do this without, well, people like y'all. I mean, if I got a question, I'm gonna call and ask. I'm gonna get the knowledge from somebody. I still learn something every day.
And that's what it's about, and that's why you're in the position you're in, because of that continuance to learn, and everybody on this panel for that matter. That's none of us saying we're knowing it all. I definitely don't, but I'm willing to learn. So
me too.
And that's what's going to continue in the industry enterprise. So, yep.
Can we go back to the sub base again, or the base?
We absolutely can.
From the methodology of general contractors or design builders, the way they award projects today, the interface between the various trades becomes a major problem to sort out these problems. The one that I see a lot is where the general will farm out or sub out the base course installation and compaction. And at the end of that, they will hand the concrete contractor the compaction results. Okay. The problem with that is you're picking up on a a compaction job that you did not do. You don't know how accurate the proctor was or the results were. You don't know what happened to that base course between the time it was tested and the time that you guys came aboard with getting ready to form up and pour floors. That transition of responsibility and risk has to be crystal clear. You need to have a guarantee from whoever put that rock in and compacted it that that's what you're accepting and you're running with it. And any any difficulties that occur as a result of base course settlement is not your responsibility. And that runs across all your floor numbers. It happens. I see it all the time. When I was still awarding projects, we would make sure that transfer of responsibility was clean, because these poor contractors go out there and expect to see something and get something and rely on what the compaction reports say. And then they find out after they pour, oh, we got pockets of settlement here and big broad bird baths here and there. And then the problems begin. So that needs to be a clean transfer of responsibility.
I can tell when that truck backs out. I can tell you when that truck backs out on it, if that's compacted. Now, one of the things that I do,
late.
Yeah, but one of the things that I do, I really get upset about electricians and plumbers coming through my slab. So when you give me that slab back, you're going to compact that back to where you got it. I mean, don't just dump a bunch of rock in it and take a backhoe tire and run through it and think it's compacted. That's you bring it up, and it has to be the way you found it.
Yes.
Now, what about when you're backing your trucks in there? Is your compaction so good that it's not affecting it, or
I don't see anything. I'm not looking if I see a tire track. I mean, we know this before we get started.
Sure.
Before we start the trucks, because we go proof roll stuff.
Okay.
It's very, very important, and it's very important that these other trades put that substrate back to 96 or 98, just like they found it.
Sure.
And with that compaction, it's depending on what that last layer of compaction, what everything was. You may only be testing the top 8 inches. The compaction could be 100%, but if stuff underneath it sucks, that's why that proof roll is the most important thing. It doesn't not even about compaction. You proof roll that, and not with some whatever. It better be a dump truck full of rock. And you run that entire slab up and down and side everywhere over that slab. That is the key right there, because a compaction report doesn't mean crap.
No, really. It depends on where they took it at, Sam. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, so you're right. When that truck rolls over, you'll know.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
This whole conversation brings up something we kind of in between the pre-construction and construction process is beginning to mitigate risk. If they are doing something or don't approve something that you really need or think you need, put it on paper. Let them know, hey, I know you guys said I have to do this. I don't agree with it. Here's what could happen, and get them to respond. And that same way along the way, if you're seeing things that you don't agree with, or they're forcing you into processes you don't agree with, get it on paper, get a text, get something to cover yourself along the way. Because in the commercial world, we can't walk away from a project if they're telling us to do things that we don't want to do, but we can have our stance, and at least you've got something documented that if it comes down to it, you can stand on it.
Yep. So that documentation is definitely huge in the commercial world, of that paper trail where just the conversation. Hey, this is what could happen. This is what I know. This is what I think could happen. And get that response one way or another. That's good, Zach. I really like
and
that.
Then when you put the liability on them, especially engineers, I mean, that stamp's worth a lot of money.
Right.
And they start considering it, because they just rushed it out the door, copy and pasted it, but then they reconsider. We've seen vapor barrier under 4 inches of sand, and that, like, slab curling, and there's so many things that go so bad with that. And until somebody said something, they were just going to leave it. But we spoke up. and they have to wear it on their face a little if they have to retract something from their spec, but it's better than them assuming all the risk.
So kind of a fringe, not really, but just kind of talk about that. I've done that, and I've wondered about that. The vapor barrier under 4 inches of sand. What would be the purpose of that?
Just like we just talked about, it used to help curing, or they thought it would help curing.
Okay,
but in reality, all it does is throw off the timing of what the slab is trying to do, because all the free water goes down and then it just hangs out there until the equilibrium, the relative humidity forces it to do something.
Right.
Becomes a blotter.
It used to be ACI recommended that. They took that out.
Right.
Yep.
They had that in at one time, sprinkle sand and this, but sand moves around too. It's like, pouring on marbles. You know what I'm saying? It's like 57s. People want to pull on 57s. People do it all the time, but not on an industrial floor.
Good point. Okay, so I think we got that. I think we got our subgrade down, right? And vapor barrier. Do we got anything else that we need to add into that? Reinforcement, does this matter? I know it's always spec'd, but is
Moisture.
one better than the other? Some maybe fibers, steel fibers. Steve, I know you talked about steel fibers. Does these things affect our finishability and our F numbers?
Yeah, I think it depends on what type you're using. All fibers are not created equal. I can tell you, I've poured every fiber they make, and all fibers are not created equal. And you can get. I do a lot of extended joint stuff, so it's very, very, very critical to have a good fiber. I believe in the aspect ratio of fibers. I think the more fibers you can get in that mix, the better you are. Because I think, in my opinion, we got so many micro cracks with fibers from aggregate to fiber that we got millions and millions and millions of micro cracks. That's what makes these. This is why we don't have a lot of curl in these joints. Minimize the curl, but I mean, everything matters. Another thing that I'm a big fan of is circles. I do circles. I don't do diamonds. I do circles.
Okay.
Circles
around your columns, right?
Yeah, the diamond. If you take a point, and that concrete, can it go around that half moon better than it can that point? Well, that point kind of restricts it. And then the saw cut guys, if they don't hit that point exactly, then it cracks, off the point. That round is real forgiving, and it lets that concrete move. It lets it move, and it's got to move. It's going to move. It shrinks. Round.
Do you isolate the columns?
Yes. Round. Everything's round, Don.
Jason, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the subgrade. There's something that nobody touched on. We got to a point, geographically in Kansas City, there's some areas that aren't super great, right? They're terrible. And let's be real, most of the construction nowadays, your data centers and everybody that's out there running into these great big projects, do you know why they're building them where they're building them? Because they got the land really cheap because it's garbage. So pay attention to that specifically. We got to a point where we would reject a slab or a pad. We did a lot of our own fine grading, and or we would carry the whole base course, but we would reject a slab or a base slab without soil stabilization if it was bad enough. Done. We're not doing it. I won't touch it till you fix it, right? And sometimes that's a bullet Band-Aid on a bullet wound, and we all know that. But the first time I was told, well, we can't back a truck in here, so we're going to pump it, I about lost it. Okay? And there's a lot of people out there doing that, guys. And I guarantee you right now, Matt's smiling. Matt, that's happened in your history. Steve, you've seen it. Jason smiled. We've all seen it. We all know. Zeb, I don't know you personally, but I'm sure you've heard or seen something similar to that, right? It's just
very much so. Yeah.
It just is what it is, but it's wrong, right? Yeah. Day one, rule number one, sub base. End of discussion.
Sure.
And since that's, it's not fast enough, costs too much money. Well, you pour the floor 2 or 3 times, it's going to cost a lot more than what it would have to just stabilize it. So, I wanted to touch on that. It's super important to stand your ground. Like and that leads into the documentation conversation we were having, right? If they're not going to follow due process or best practice, then cover yourself flat out.
Yeah.
If
there is no vapor barrier on the subgrade, make sure it's moist. Whatever, you're wetting it down. Don't pour on dry subgrade if you don't have a vapor barrier.
That's a good one we've touched on a lot in the other panels, but I guess it definitely needs to be if there's no vapor barrier.
Say it all the time. We say it all the time.
Yep.
We've been back and forth. ACI, everybody's been back and forth on first they thought plastic would make edges curl. So we did a lot of testing. I did with Bill Phelan before he passed away. With Euclid, we did a lot of testing with that. So they've been back and forth on. We're seeing that plastics, it don't affect anything. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think that plastic is good. Like Sam said, I mean, I think it's really good for the slide. I think it's good for the water retention. And believe me, I poured a lot of slabs too. They were not on plastic, but that substrate was so tight. I mean, we had a little drag, and not like, it was really good. I mean, I don't even want to see a tire track. They roll that truck. I don't want to see a tire track. If I see a tire track, no, And
it matters. It goes exactly back to the clip that we're gonna turn into a reel from Jason. The sub base matters. Yeah, that's what it is. It's just how it goes.
What it is, it matters.
Yep.
For us, back to pre-planning. One thing we always request, if we're doing the dirt work or if the dirt work's going to be done, we want to see the geo report. We want to see what those soils were before that pad was built, or if somebody's doing it ahead of us, because we are here in the Midwest. Our soils, they're some places, we don't have concerns. In other places, like right here in Northeast Oklahoma, we've got 18 to 24 inches of just real nasty soil before we ever hit anything. So, a lot of times, these contractors that we might work for, these owners, they're going to want to go in there and get that built as cheap as possible. And they might even bring in a select fill or something that, they got pretty cheap and, out of one of their pits or something like, and then, but if that hadn't been engineered and has a geo report and then was tested when those lifts were being put in, and we're taking, the contractor's taking liability, 100% liability, whatever we're putting on top of that. So that's one of the most important things for us contractors to, be confident in what we're pouring on top of.
Zeb, do you have expansive soils down your way?
We do. Yeah.
That's really bad.
Yes.
Yeah, because that affects. There's a lot of things that come into that expansive soil. Is the roof up? Is the building dried in at that point?
Right. Because
there's been engineering work done on the soils, and they're put in a certain moisture content. If they're highly expansive, and the building's not dried in, you're just out pouring a slab out in the middle of a field somewhere, and you get some moisture come in, and moisture gets down to that expansive soil. Yeah. It'll 8 inches, 12 inches of concrete. Man, it's nothing for expansive soil to just lift right up and throw out of the way like it didn't care.
Right. And we're starting to see a lot more, number 57 underneath our floor, a clean rock, at least 4 inches or, something. And we're seeing that more and more often for that water during that, before that building is dried in, somewhere for that water to go and not expand in the soils.
That looks good on the surface, and it bridges a lot of problems in the sub base. But over time, that sub base is going to let go, and that 57 is going to go right with it.
That's true.
That is, I agree with you on the stabilization. We did a ton of work down in Texas, where they have some terrible expansive soils. And every one of those projects had to be excavated out about 4.5 feet over 1 million square foot pad, disposed of someplace, and brought in fresh, non-expansive material, and we even had to lime stabilize that to get a solid base, a thick, solid base that wouldn't crunch later on. So, like someone said, we're left now today with all the rotten sites that nobody wanted. People have gone around the country core drill to see what kind of soil they had, and if it was bad, I was guilty of it. We went through Texas looking for spots to build certain clients, and if our core driller came back and said that's some crappy soil, we went to the next site. So all the bad stuff is left, and that's what we're faced with. All the infills are what we're doing today.
Yep. Okay, so anything else that we can add to subbase to just completely leave no more questions on the table? I think we've pretty much beat that one down. We kind of got into reinforcement a little bit with fibers and such. Let's talk a little bit about slump. Obviously, we know we have parameters we got to follow a lot of times with slump, and there's a guy there that's supposedly the one there to test it. I know in the back chat we've talked a lot about this and the testers and the different styles. So let's get into that a little bit. Let's talk about that a little bit, the testing side of our slump.
I got one question before you go there.
Let's do it.
So Sam, it is Sam and Don. So do you tell me if so a lot of these engineers a lot of time will put way more than 1% steel in a slab and expect it. Once you get over 1%, that turns into structural. Is that correct?
Well, 1% is temperature steel.
Right.
And that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Once you get over that,
once
you get over that, then you're going into 318.
Yes, exactly.
So you do have to caution these guys. Hey, if you want to use steel, but don't use but a certain percent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And more isn't better in that regard.
Right. Exactly.
Now, because then you start restraining shrinkage and all kinds of. There's all kinds of other. There's a whole other road that takes it down at that point.
Yep. Okay.
We don't have time for that today. We don't have time for that today.
You good, Steve? You got that handled and settled, then we're good.
Well, I just wanted to bring it up.
Sure, absolutely.
Don't know about that, but it'll get you in a trap.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay, so let's get into some slump stuff. So we know that we have specs that we got to get to. So where are those specs? Like, how can we push them? What are we looking for? And what do we do to stand up for ourselves to some of these that we're going to question a little bit ourselves? Who wants to dive? I mean, any one of us could dive into this one, I'm sure. But Sam, you have a lot of good information on this.
Throw it in the trash. If it's got more than 20 ounces of water reducer in it, don't worry about it. Wait for breaks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Slump is. I don't know where, because this was way before I started, maybe Don's time or something like that. But where did all of a sudden slump become the measure of concrete, good concrete? It's a measure. If you look at the test method, it says it's a measure of workability. It has nothing to do with anything that has anything to do with that concrete. As soon as I put a water reducer in it, as soon as I put super in it, as soon as I put a viscosity modifier in it, anything like that, the slump test is out the window. It's like a worthless piece of metal garbage, really. It's your water to cement ratio. You have a ticket. Every load is, if we didn't touch on that, if you're not getting your delivery tickets with batch weights on your tickets, you're doing the wrong thing right from the start. But each one of those tickets comes out with a water to cement ratio on it. If you're in spec or whatever your submitted mix design was, I don't care what that slump test guy said. My concrete's good because if you're just measuring its workability, that's it.
So
the problem we got, people think water's bad. Water's actually good. So my slumps, when I design, if I get to a point, I'll just say, hey, I'll get it engineered. I'll stamp it. I'll get it stamped. I'll do it myself. My slump is going in at 5 plus or minus 1 with water.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. With water.
Yep.
With 1L, absolutely.
Yep.
And if you're on a high priority project that is rejecting trucks off slump, keep every single ticket and tell them to prove that it was outside the water cement ratio, or else they're going to buy it. Because 99% of the time it'll be the water cement ratio. It'll probably be underhydrated still, but it's got so much water reducer in it that if they fail you on slump and reject a truck, make sure you're in it, because that's their truck.
Because not that we're going to talk bad about the testing lab guys.
No.
But some of the testing lab guys are just some random, could have been a homeless dude 2 days before.
100%.
That they needed a body to fill into to go out into a job, and they just threw some equipment at him and say, hey, watch some YouTube videos and go do this. I got guys, I don't know how, the last 4 jobs I've been on, watching the tester slam the bottom of the plate with the slump rod, and from the 3rd lift, he's rodding all the way through, still slamming the bottom on the top lift. And I'm filming him. I blatantly have my camera there filming this guy, and he just looks up at me and thinks he's doing great because he thought he was doing great. It's like, wow. Awesome.
Summer help.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it seems like. I know I'm an interviewer, so I'm always constantly asking questions, and I've talked to this scenario is real. I asked him what he did before this. He said he worked at a gas station a week ago. And I'm like, this multi-million-dollar project right now is on your hands essentially, and what you say today, and you worked at a gas station last week. So I get it. It makes it like, ooh, needs a little better training, or at least a little better methods. So, but
for us, I want to look for about a 5-inch slump. I don't want to pour anything much wetter than that unless, the situation's right. But especially for, using laser screeds and you pour any more than about a 5-inch slump, your F numbers are going to go down. It's hard to pour a 7 and 8-inch slump. We go screed for a lot of people, and man, they bring that mix out there 7, 8 inches, and I'm like, guys, you got to dry this up. I mean, you're expecting me to screed this floor flat. I can't when you have an 8-inch slump.
When you're putting a wave into the pass you just did, you're putting a wave over that direction. Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's too wet.
So the 5-inch slump for us is perfect finishability. I mean, if the mix is right, a 5-inch slump is you can handle it and put out a quality project with it.
Mm-hmm. Steve, you touched on something. You said that a lot of times you tell them, I'll take the mix on me, I'll take the liability or whatever. Yep. And I know a lot of times we talk about that, and let's talk about that again tonight. That you do anyway, no matter what. I know a lot of guys say, well, I don't want to, if I try to change things, well, then it's on my back. But it is anyway, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Don, you've done a lot of representation in court cases for this. So you want to touch on that a little bit?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the first thing is that, and going back to the slump issue, municipalities around the country have hired these building commissioners, and they have hired their buddies to go out on job sites and do pre-pour inspection and reinforcing inspection and forming inspection. And they basically don't know up from down on anything, but yet they have the power of the police force to stop a job. They have the authority to red tag that job and stop you in mid-pour. Mm-hmm. And I've had several examples of that where a contractor called me and said, I got to have you come out here because these guys are forcing me to do 3-inch slump. I can't even get it down on the floor. And, I need an engineer's approval to modify this mix. So off I go. Mm-hmm. And I have to put my shingle on the line to do that. But I find that these people, there's just too many of them out there that are on big projects, multi-million-dollar projects, that are telling people and stopping people from doing work because it isn't exactly according to what ACI section whatever says. And they really don't care. I mean, they will red tag your job and they will leave. And there you sit and wonder what you're going to do with those loads. So it is an enormous problem. But to the issue of the court cases, the jobs need documentation, as built documentation of what took place, when it took place, photographs of it so it can all coordinate and tie together. Once you have something going on the job and you don't record it, as Zach has explained many times here, you leave yourself wide open to whatever they want to do to you. I mean, the concrete guys get pushed around like no other trade. Okay, they don't push around steel setters. They don't push around plumbers. They let them get away with murder, putting trenches through your base course and leaving it that way, sometimes full of water, okay, and then just leave it that way. But concrete guys get pushed around and shoved around from people who don't know what they're doing or have the foggiest idea of what it takes to get a concrete floor down. So you must document your days. I'm talking commercial now.
Sure.
As a perfect example, about 5 years ago, I consulted for a subcontractor that put in fuel storage tanks and dispensing systems. And he did one for the state of Illinois at one of their main headquarters where all kinds of people reported. And the police force, all the squad cars fueled up at that location. And he got a call after the job was all done that they had to vacate the building because there was gasoline odors coming out of the basement. And I mean, the state of Illinois sued him. The general contractor had a superintendent on that job that documented everything that happened on that job, what time it was when it happened, took pictures of things every day, did a daily log that you could read backwards and reconstruct that entire job back to day one. And we were able to defend this contractor because we discovered that the concrete guy rolled over the piping with a ready-mix truck when he was pouring the curb, and he blew out an elbow. So documentation is just critical because it gives you a leg up if something happens. You got your attorney and your consultant can rebuild that case and defend you with it. So I can't say enough about documentation on the job. So.
Super important. Jason, do you have
everybody has one of these?
Oh yeah.
Take pictures.
Absolutely.
Take pictures.
Yep.
We're all photographers today.
Well,
years ago we weren't.
Don, you said something a minute ago. You said you got a call that 0.3-inch slump. Well, that should have been talked about in the pre-pool meeting. And another thing,
thank you.
And another thing is that tester is there to observe and record. He's not going to reject trucks. He's not going to do this. He's not going to do that. I get that. That's straight right up front. His job is to observe and record. Now, he's not going to tell me what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do.
Well, you touched on it perfectly, Steve. That's the only thing I wanted to add in. Sorry, Don, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah,
go ahead, Jason.
I wanted to add in. So we give all this great information, but a lot of these guys really don't know when, right? When do I need to be paying attention to my slumps and my obviously we just talked about testers, right? In all of my pre-cons, I required verification that they were at least a field tech 1, right? A verification that the guys running FF and FLs are certified or trained. No field training, right? I hate field training. That just means they were shown by somebody standing next to a truck at one point in their lives. So you need all this stuff up front in your pre-con, and your pre-con needs to be as early as possible. Like, I don't care if you're there day one and have the first pre-con, and then you have another one, and then you have another one. Like, don't stop. There's no regulation on how many you can have. There's no, become a nuisance, because if you don't become a nuisance, you become a statistic.
I've got a huge list of what we talk about, Jason, in pre-pour, and that
100. So do I. 100%.
I mean, you're going to come test my floor. You're going to be certified.
Yes, sir.
You're going to be certified, and you're going to be ACI certified.
How many times did the uncertified guy out there?
You're exactly right. Exactly.
More times than not.
Field certified.
Yeah.
You should walk next to the guy until he got sick of holding on to it, and he said, "Here, try this." Yeah.
Well, and there's an app. ACI has the Verify app. Like, it's if you have somebody's first and last name, you can look them up.
Yep, you can. But you gotta talk about it. I mean,
there it is.
You talk about it at the pre-pour, and it's all it isn't no surprises when I get to pouring concrete. Because when we pouring concrete now, I really go type A. You know what I'm saying? It's no we're gonna pour concrete. That's what we're gonna do. And everybody's got a job to do.
Is that your gentle term for that, Steve? Type A? That's what I'm gonna start telling my wife. I just went type A as well.
People tell me I'm type A, Rocky.
Type AH maybe.
I've heard stories even, so it's definitely type. There's some kind of type there. We'll just call it A.
Yeah, I got a lot of stories.
Oh, I'm sure, and the people around you have even more. So,
oh yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. But we get the job done. That main thing is
and
no
it's
surprises.
Obvious.
And that's the key. Is we're going out here. We got a hard job. We get one chance to do our job. We get one chance to do it and do it right. I mean, we've to do that. Everybody's got to do their job.
Sure.
So it's a team. It's a team effort.
100%.
Well, Zach said it best. Well, tonight he said it best. It's mitigation, right? Yeah. Every single thing we're offering up, everything we recommend, each and every one of us says out loud is something that we firsthand learned not to do or how to deal with it.
Right.
And in the game of concrete, I've said before, I like to play chess. I'm not a checkers player. In order to play chess, you have to have strategic moves. You have to have everything planned out. And that's no different from a 40-yard basement to a 1,000-yard commercial floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You should have a plan for everything in every direction, every day. And, like I said, and mitigate everything you can so that way when your guys show up, all they have to do is do. All they have to do is pour and finish. That's it. That's their job. Your job is to make sure that everything else is done in front of them.
And a lot of people don't do that, Jason. A lot of big companies don't do that. They just get these project managers. They send them out on jobs. They don't have a way up, way off. They don't have a way to get equipment on them. They just tell you to send 100 yards an hour when you should really be doing 50.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's all about planning. I can't think of a job that we've done that we didn't go look at before. Have a plan and talk to people about it. I need this stuff cleaned out. Need this cleaned out.
The money's made in the planning, right?
It really is, Don. I mean, honestly and truthfully, that's the key.
Yep.
That's becoming the most important concept here as we go through the different topics, and it keeps coming back to it's planning, and that's all facets of concrete, really, but especially true in the commercial world.
Rocky, and the biggest, we're talking about planning, but then let's talk that as we're doing this, that you're absolutely documenting to the nth degree what you're actually doing. Right. If you don't have a storybook of exactly what went on, and Don, if you would, we talked about this in the chat today. But Don, if you'll explain exactly what went on in a couple of the well done jobs that you've been on that go to litigation and the purpose of that, please.
Well, are you referring to the one up in Minnesota with the ASR?
Yeah, well, talking about the one where you're talking about where you could reconstruct the job because of the well taken notes.
Yeah, I just explained that one. That was a state of Illinois job where the superintendent just kept fastidious records all the way through the job from day one. and allowed me to, well, I did this at home at night after I came home from the office and spread the drawings out and took his diary and his daily reports that he turned into his office and his photographic evidence over the life of the project and developed a timeline, a complete project timeline just off of that information. So I had an as-built schedule that I put together to see at what point some heavy piece of equipment passed over these tanks that caused the problem. And, you know, it didn't take too long to figure out what happened. So it was a classic example of a superintendent that did a fantastic job documenting, photographing, and it allowed this contractor to be dismissed on the courtroom steps. He was ready to head into court, and the plaintiffs from Illinois, their attorneys came and stopped him and said, "We're going to dismiss this case." And it was all because that superintendent did his job.
Correct.
Documented.
And I think the thing to bring to light there is that that's absolutely, and it's an unpenetratable defense when you have that. Go ahead.
There's no arguments. There's no fluff. There's nothing to dig into and penetrate. It's there.
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. Huge. And it needs to be storybook. It needs to be something so that when someone sits down with it, they know exactly what went on and how it went on that day. And
yes,
go ahead.
That storybook title that you just used is perfect, because you bring these cases to a jury and the jury doesn't understand anything about what we do for a living. They have no idea. The judge knows nothing about it. The attorneys know nothing except what you tell them. And so you have to have it in that storybook narrative form, you know, no acronyms, just words. This is what I did. This is what happened. This is who was in that area when it happened. That just is textbook. It's just a perfect way to protect yourself.
Yep. And communicate early and often. And that's, you're doing that through your diary form as well there. But anytime that things go on the project, and as you're doing these things, you make sure that stuff is communicated. Not I'll get to it, not anything. If something comes up, it absolutely has to be documented.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Guys, AJ said our live is boring, so he needs to.
And I was just going to say, kind of going out of that, as far as placements go, especially since 1L, we've started tracking all that stuff a lot more. Weather, evaporation, all that stuff. When we're getting on bigger floors, and even if it's a screenshot, you know, we have an app that I built, but you can use whatever, but just take a picture of it, put some data out there. So if you struggle putting the floor down, you know, next time, okay, I had a 10% limestone mix. The weather was like this, you know, especially those guys. I'm sure Jason is chasing numbers all the time. And when you start getting into evaporative conditions, that's a really tall task.
Okay. So let's get into some placing. So as we're putting down mud, we've got our batch tickets. We know what our slump is. We've done all our pre-planning. Is there anything different than I need to start thinking about when I'm placing it with this 1L?
No, it was just talked about evaporation.
Okay. Yep, evaporation. Start to think about that right away. That's huge. And you said this in the very first one, I think, Zach. And it's as soon as it's the truck. Well, essentially, as soon as it's loaded, evaporation is what you're thinking about, and that curing process. What do I got to do to start curing it because it's starting to set?
Yeah, I mean, starting with your mix design, that's where we start every single time. Vapor barrier, just a lot of the things that have led up to this, to the execution. I mean, commercial work that's where a lot of people, that's why I love it. It is black and white. It is what it is. Nobody cares how it, not nobody cares how it looks, but a lot of the residential market is based off how it looks. It's how it performs, and is it to the quality that they expect, whether it's flatness or appearance. So what do you have to do to obtain that? We're looking at, I mean, on this panel alone, there's a lot of guys that perform very high tolerance floors on a regular basis. And I think that's, you're getting into a hard task, like I said, with evaporation. So making sure that's squared away right out of the gate's important.
Sure.
You just need water in the concrete, Rock.
That's kind of what it's coming down to. Water in the concrete, right? Jason, when you guys are putting down mud, what are you thinking right away about curing? Are you guys doing any like evaporation retardants, or are you just sticking with it, maybe putting some accelerants in it?
Should have thought about that way before you left the shop to make sure you got like everything you need just in case that day.
Yeah.
Whether you use it or not, that's another thing, but you've got it with you. And I mean, a windstorm could come up and you're going to need some stuff. You got to have it on the truck, but
sure.
I don't like using a lot of stuff.
Jason, you guys doing any spray on stuff? Any films of any sort?
I would say the majority of the time when we're indoors, we haven't done much up to this point.
Yeah.
I'm learning about the 1L evaporation stuff just as long, with everybody else.
Sure.
And I would say we've taken some huge steps in the last few months to address those, how we're going to attack those coming up. But in the past, we haven't done much unless we've seen it, like it was a outdoor pour and we saw that we were going to have issues, and we would use films, accelerants, we have a good team, so I'm never scared to put accelerator in there. Sure. I mean, I've poured in 80 degrees with 1.5%, 2% calcium out in Chicago.
Right.
And everybody knows if you want to pour in Chicago, you got to kick some ass and finish. You got to put some hot mud down and get it finished, or you won't compete in Chicago.
Sure.
So I think that the guys in Chicago use calcium chloride like it's water.
I know Matt Gross, he tuned out, I think, but we have a quote of him saying that a lot of times when guys think they need retarder, they actually need some accelerant. So to keep the body setting with the top. So I imagine that's a huge thing with you guys.
Yeah, I think that's what saved me so far, because I haven't done much evaporation retarders, but we haven't had any delamination or any issues yet, is because we're usually pouring with accelerator because of the finish team we have behind us and the placement, and that's what makes us successful so far, is the speed that we put it down and that we're able to finish it and be efficient.
And we talk about
it's just amazing. It's just amazing to me that, when I was pouring concrete every day as a pretty major concrete contractor here in Chicago, back in the 70s, we were doing $5 million worth of work. So I don't know what that is today, but it's way up there. And chloride with type 1 was just no. I mean, if you used it, it's because they were giving you constant gap graded concrete that bled for hours. In fact, they even went so far as to design a vacuum system and blankets to put over the floor to suck up that surplus water and densify the surface so you could put a finish on it. And now here we are with 1L, and we're using chloride because the top is getting hard on us and there's no bleed. So life is crazy.
Don, you've seen many of these changes all the way from way back, so I can only imagine the roller coasters you've been through.
Yeah.
It's really not been that. It's not been that long. I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, when I started placing finishing commercial, I remember not liking to use the calcium chloride because of the amount of bleed we would get.
Sure.
I mean, sometimes we would have to squeegee it if you were indoors and it was humid.
Yeah.
And that's completely gone away.
Yep.
If you're not seeing bleed water on an indoor slab or undercover slab on vapor barrier, that's a little scary.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so placing's real similar. Obviously, we need to think about the curing. It's like we always say, we're thinking about the evaporation rates. Obviously, if you guys are doing commercial, you know the tools. I'm sure one of these guys got one of the evaporation tools they'll hold up here. There goes Sam. If you guys are commercial work,
might be able to beat him.
And this isn't readily accessible.
There you go, Sam.
It was almost a tie.
Almost.
So evaporation's huge. You know in your weather, right? So planning the weather out, that's huge too. We talk about that often. So
and let's we talked on all the other ones, for everyone to understand that the initial curing from the time that the concrete goes down, protecting from the moment that the concrete leaves the back of the truck, and then the intermediate curing, what are you doing to maintain and control that moisture loss during the finishing, because intermediate and initial are before final curing. However, they are the most delicate and the most pronounced effect, especially on 1L, as far as what are you doing to protect the concrete during these phases.
Yep.
So Sam, Zach, Jason, you guys want to jump in on that? I mean, that goes into, before we get into much of the placing, it's like you've got concrete on the ground now. Now, how are you going to control and what are you doing?
Well, a lot of it's knowing your material. If you're unaware of what you're going to have for water content in that slab, then you have to start protecting yourself using evaporation retardants. Just finding those small little ways to protect it just in case. There's nothing worse than walking out to paint a floor the first time and seeing shrinkage cracks everywhere. I mean, that means you are already behind the evaporation. So getting ahead of it, and it doesn't cost that much to have a guy fog a slab while you're pouring it. It doesn't. And just to mitigate that risk for yourself is super important.
Yeah, and without touting different projects or different products, like there's some viscosity modifiers out there now that a little splash of that you put in your mix design. And I think we've had this conversation before, is their original intent was to pour concrete underwater. So they hold the water out of the concrete. They hold your water in the concrete at the same time too. So helping the batch water not escape as bleed water right from the start is that's in there from the time it leaves the concrete plant.
Okay, that's good information. What do you want to throw out an example of that, or you want to stay away from throwing out brands on some modifiers?
Man, VMAR 3 is awesome.
Okay.
That's
I just needed an example to kind of know where we're going with that.
Yeah, so. It's I think that was an old Grace product to start with before they got changed their name to Creso, but that is one of the better ones, and it does hold the water. It holds your batch water in, so it doesn't become bleed.
So there's the initial cure starting in the body of it with its own its own water, and that's huge.
Right from the concrete. As soon as it goes in the headwater up front, so that's before the cement even hits the load of concrete. That it's already in there and ready to start working.
And we've talked a little bit about slag also, using some SCMs to help. Slag is a good SCM to help manage water also, because it doesn't actually hydrate. So that's a good thing to add too, and if you have the ability to.
That's a good tip, definitely. Okay, so curing process intermediate. We're starting to think about foggers, some aquafilm type stuff. I know that's brand probably. Let's just say films, some evaporation retardants. Finishing aids. Are we using finishing aids at all for this? And let's talk about the difference between a retardant, an evaporation retardant, and a finishing aid.
Well, evaporation retarder is something you put down as soon as that concrete hits the ground. Bull float it and spray it on. And the finishing aid is, in my mind, it's a recovery tool. You know, things are starting to get away from you, and there's nothing, you know, you could put water on it and ruin the whole floor, or you put some finishing aid on it and help yourself out. The problem with finishing aid is abuse. You know, it has a tendency when there's too much of it applied to cause some problems with the surface, and you'll get little quarter-sized delaminations here and there. So you need to be cautious of how much you put down, but definitely it needs to be in the toolbox to help you out, especially if you're out in the sunshine.
You know, we had a slab that we used some finishing aid, and we were actually just about second to third pass of being done. Went to go pour some of the finishing aid in one of our riders, and it didn't get, you know, it kind of spilt all around and everything. Well, that area right around that rider, that whole surface just peeled off. So absolutely, exactly. You can way overuse a material. I mean, we accidentally spilled too much, but we had to, I mean, even squeegeeing it off and doing all that, that material was still there on that surface. And we had an issue in that corner of the slab where too much of that product was applied. And so you definitely have to be careful with these finishing aids.
Sure.
Yeah.
Found the other day that putting it in a fogger puts a nice consistent layer over versus like the chafing stickers where you just get amounts, and it doesn't typically get as abused, I would say.
Yeah.
I can't.
Fogging's the way to go for sure.
I have a real hard time with finishing aids. I can't. It's like snot on the floor. I can't even control my machine. I mean, I've always said finishing aids are for people that don't know how to finish concrete. Now, you know, but I'm telling you, you put that. I mean, it's like sliding on an ice rink. I mean, you can't control anything. I mean, I've tried them, and I think they're pretty good for edges, the edge guys. You know what I'm saying? But you put it on the floor, and you're trying to run a pattern, man. You're all over the place.
Robert Carter's asking, what would cause that delam from a finishing aid? What would cause that? Obviously, putting too much on, we know that, but you want to kind of break down the science of how that would happen?
Diluting the paste.
I was going to say that's a Zach or a Ben answer.
Yeah, just diluting the paste. You're introducing a material that's gonna break that tension that has been created within the cementitious matrix at the surface, and it is no different than adding water at that point, because you're just diluting the paste volume at the top.
Good info. Okay, so we're talking about curing.
One thing on that. Well, I poured for years, and our company never bought one bucket of any finishing aid ever until I had to get out of the field. So if you have a really good team, I don't think there should be a need for hardly ever a finishing aid. A lot of people that we do screed work for and or help finish. I would say if we would just get out of bed and start the pour at 1 a.m., we just mitigate all the problems that we're facing. Right. You know. So I think that's the biggest secret for me is just pouring it at night.
Yes.
And having the equipment to do it. I mean, you got enough equipment, you got enough manpower, got enough finishers. You stay with it. You know, you never cut that machine off. You don't need all, in my opinion.
And we talk about that often. Is controlling the variables is going to be a good tool in your box, and pouring at night is a good way to control the variable of the heat and the sun. So yeah, definitely.
Yes, sir.
Okay. One thing I wanted to mention about what Jason was just talking about, and looking at the photograph that he is standing in front of, you see those sun rays coming through those punch-out windows and overhead doors. Those can be killers, and just absolutely fry that little section of concrete and cause a major delamination on it. So those, sometimes it's better not to leave those open, put some plastic over it, black plastic or something over it, especially if it's on the sunny side of that building. That causes the major problems.
You guys ever cover those windows like that, Jason? I know exactly what he's talking about, and I've done that because, and especially it'll create that line as the sun moves all the way across your floor. It's like it's a cold joint all the way across there.
And it occurs a lot with the new glass that is put into the new commercial office buildings. It's 100% reflective glass, and it reflects on an angle down on a sidewalk that you're trying to pour. And it literally it's just like frying an ant with a magnifying glass.
Oh, wow.
It is, I mean, the damage is unbelievable, and it happens in minutes.
You know, something we didn't discuss and probably should have been discussed earlier is under pre-pour planning is weather conditions. You got to be with weather conditions, Jason, starting the pours at night. You can eliminate a lot of those problems. Seeing pre-pour, somebody's going to go look at the pour before it even starts. They're going to find out where the sunspots are, stuff like that. So really, a lot of that stuff can be done with your pre-pour planning. Yeah. And I mean, you got to start the job, you know, so you got to know what to expect. I just want to bring up other conditions and how you can kind of avoid some of that stuff.
Does anybody remember the Walmart lights that they were using for a while? The super, super bright, like we poured 2 slabs in a row, and the first one they had switched to this new temp light during construction, and it burned so hot that we were having hot spots underneath our slab at the lights. I mean, you could almost see where it was projecting on the slab.
That was the old sodium lights, right?
I think so. And because the light they used before that would miss the lasers up. You had to shut them off while you were pouring because the screed, it would bounce, the beam would bounce.
It was terrible on your screed, but it really was a heat source. It was, you're right.
Back then, were they covering those floors back then, the Walmarts, or was that a polished floor?
No, they were colored.
Colored and bead blasted.
Yep.
So did you get rid of that then?
No, you just finished it out. It was
figured out how to do it. That's what it was.
I mean, you gotta slow it down a little bit. Your finishers got to know how to respond to that.
But I mean, in the polishing process or whatever, did it disappear or did it always stay there?
I don't think it shadowed out.
No, we had to fight more flowers from our riders that would stand still. Hence, the riders are not allowed to stop ever at a Walmart now. We had to deal with that more so than anything.
A lot you don't think about. Okay, so where are we at? We're kind of in finishing processes now, right? So what's going to be different with this stuff from a commercial standpoint and a finishing standpoint? Am I getting on it sooner? Am I waiting a little bit longer? Am I still hitting it with my pans? Maybe forego the pans. Let's talk about the finishing practice.
Rocky, for us, we almost on a slab, I want to wait till I'm almost scared, almost where it's too late before I get a pan machine on it. And that's where it comes into play, having plenty of finishers, plenty of riders, plenty of equipment, but getting on it too early, you're going to have trouble, you know. And then what we often have to look out for is inconsistent loads. If we're working with a plant that can't keep consistently bringing a 5-inch slump, and we'll wind up having a truck or two that's, a wet load out there in the middle somewhere. Having a good finisher, a good lead pan guy or two that knows what to look for and not get on something too soon, I think has been the biggest key. Is almost wait until it's almost too late before you start panning. And for us, that's what we've been trying to teach our guys, and we find that works the best. If we do come into a wet load, go out there and scrape it. Take a, if you're starting to get ridges or you get into a wet load or something, deal with it right away. Get it flattened back off. Open, let it set for a little bit before you get a pan on it. Just all these little things that were just, back in the old days, we'd get on it. You could sink down 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, and you start finishing it. And nowadays, especially with this Type 1L, we wait as long as we possibly can and start chasing it versus trying to stay ahead of it.
Your floor is going to be flat as Zeb. I mean,
absolutely.
When you're chasing the floor, you're going to get the best F numbers.
You're absolutely right.
I mean, it's a fact.
And that's situational though, because there are these guys that are running in the middle market that don't have laser screeds. They're trying to hit 60s on Viber strikes. So and we talked a little bit about this morning. There's a difference between finishing a floor flat and finishing a flat floor. And a guy can change it in a heartbeat. So those guys that have to go out and try to hit numbers behind hand routed slabs or Viber strike slabs, you really have to be on your timing, because you need enough surface mortar to still fix any mistakes that were made screeding, but you also don't want to get yourself in a position where you're having issues with the surface then.
Sure.
So I think a big question I would have is, I think a lot of it comes down to your equipment arsenal. So I know Zeb runs some really heavy 3,000 pound, 10-foot hand machines, the best the best out there. But so my question to the experts would be, should we be looking at making sure we're running heavier equipment so we can wait longer? Or what about these guys that are running the light stick machines? Is that worse for 1L, or is that, those are the questions I have.
It's all about timing. It's all about the timing and what you got. As a finisher, I mean, you can't teach that. Either you got it or you don't got it. One of the things, I mean, as a finisher, timing is everything, and you got to know what equipment you got. I've run the big machines. I've got the 12 footers. I've got this, got that, but you got to be able to finish one with an 8 footer. And sometimes, so I think it's all about the timing and getting on it right, but I actually changed up a lot. I don't use steel blades anymore. I quit using them about 15 years ago because I think that sometimes that we as finishers can overfinish a floor. And with these heavy machines, with densifying that surface so bad, you'll pull a top off one if you're not careful. So we went to different types of blades and what we're using, and we get our F numbers, we get our gloss numbers, we get what we got to get. But I was real careful with that, because back in the day when they came out with polycarboxylates actually produced air. And so I said, you know what, in case this thing does, we don't want to overfinish this slab. Because back in the day when I first started, everything you got sent out there had air in it. We had to finish with air, but we were using 200-pound walk behinds. There's a difference. Now you're using 2,000 and 3,000 pound riders. I'm not saying it's anything wrong with those. You can really get some good numbers, but you still, I think to answer your question, Jason, your finisher has to know what he's got, the machine he's got.
For sure. Is it more risk? Is the liability going up by running lighter machines versus heavier machines? Like Zeb was saying, waiting till you barely can, get on, you're almost losing it. That's the way we do it as well. But for some people, that's not really an option with a super light machine, because if they get behind, they're done. And then the other thing is it better for the surface to wait longer and use a heavier machine, or get on it with a lighter machine?
So if you have either option, which option would be best to choose?
Correct.
Yep.
I think you can wait
heavy.
I think the heavy too, but not everybody's got the heavy. You got to know how to do it.
I know.
You got to know how to do it with the light machine too. You just got to know your time. You got to know your equipment.
Yeah.
You got to know your finisher.
Sure.
You can learn your timing for your light equipment and turn out quality floors. I'm not saying you can't.
Right.
You can. The part that the reason I say heavy, and I'm gonna stand on my soapbox like Ben likes to say. The reason I say heavy is because our industry has created all these machines to allow our finishers to learn bad habits. It allows them to go at places with light machines they shouldn't be in. It allows them to go and do things where they shouldn't be there yet. And so the timing that they're supposed to be learning, Steve, they're not learning because the machines don't force them to. The only timing they have to worry about is being too late.
And you're right, Jason. They put those big machines out there because they save manpower. You know what I'm saying? I want a good floor. I don't give a dad blame what machine I got to use. I'm still going to give you a good floor. I know the equipment. The finishers know what they got. It's a difference in a hydraulic machine and a stick machine. It's a difference in weights. I mean, you got to know all that.
So if you had your option to choose which one to use on this stuff, Steve, which one would it be?
Well, if I'm out on a big floor, I'm gonna use a big old machine. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep.
But when you get on deck work and stuff like that, I mean, you gotta cut back a little bit.
Sure.
But Rocky, to your point, I mean, I finished a lot of industrial floors before they came out with these big machines.
Right.
And it worked.
Sure.
Do you remember the original overlapper, Steve? The actual overlapper?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The one that made that floor flat, man, you got to overlap it or it ain't going to be flat.
Oh, you got to yeah. I mean, there's so many things.
Now, when you talk about wait until the very last minute, do you increase your risk of aggregate shadow surface?
I think your aggregate shadow comes from the way you place it. I went on a job one time in Philadelphia for a company, and they were having shadowing. Well, they were taking that latest screed. They had 5 men putting it down. That's it. They were just running 100 miles an hour with that screed. Weren't close. I mean, I kind of go a little slower, and I've actually checked right the book. But you can. I think the shadowing comes from going too fast. So here was the thing. So when we got into this floor, I said, "Can I run a check rod or bull float? Can I run it in one?" We don't do that. And I said, "Okay, well, I know you don't, but give it to me and I'll run it in one bay." We ran in that one bay. The shadowing went away. Then I asked him to slow the screed down a little bit. Well, we got all that. Well, they slowed it down just a tad, and the shadowing went away. I've never had a shadowing problem. And, I know they talk about shadowing a lot, but I think it's just from going too fast.
That makes sense. We didn't have it for the longest time, and then I had about a year where we were getting quite a bit of it on a certain mix. I had
the big rock,
big rock, fast pace, and the pan got long. So it's a combination of everything.
I think you got to slow it down. I love the big rock. I mean, I love the tri blends. I love the 1.5-inch rocks. The bigger the rock, less powder. So you got to slow it down sometimes, guys. Sometimes to go fast, you got to slow down.
That sounds like a Ricky Bobby quote or something.
That's a racing thing, Rocky.
Okay.
To hit right on Jason's question, I personally don't think it matters. I think it's very situational. I have a video that I wish I would have pulled up of a slab that was burned off about as hard as the one behind you that you could still punch a mark in because it was 23% fly ash. It was type L cement. You could run an 8-foot with pans on it, but a 3-foot walk behind would bury itself. So making sure your mix is right first is the most critical part, but then also knowing the timing of how that's going to work out. A pan machine is all about surface mortar. If you don't have it, you're done. You're gonna end up throwing on some clip-on poly blade or clip-on combo blades and moving on because you just can't get the point pressure to break through the skin. But you can't get a flat floor without panning.
So Zach, that mix you're talking about, I guarantee it was over chemical too.
Oh yeah, it was a test mix.
Over chemical, which you're gonna have differential setting all over the place.
Right. It was a test mix with a spec on it, and we decided to not bump cut that slab because the amount of surface area you expose the slab to whenever you start bump cutting, if we were already in a highly evaporative situation, we're going to double that surface area and hope that we can get it closed back up. No, we'll just try to get it finished.
Yeah. What were your numbers on it? 50, 35 maybe?
I don't even think it was that high. They had a corridor. It was mainly just a hallway. They had a corridor that was big tile, and that was it.
Okay. So anything else that we can beat into the finishing that we need to start looking at a little bit differently for this? I think it's obviously dependent on your tools. That's huge. Your timing is huge. anything else we can add to this from the finishing aspect, and then we'll get into a little more of after curing or the final stages of curing. So
I think that part right there, any commercial flat worker finisher, they know what pans are capable of. They know why you use them, the increase to your flatness. But if you think about it, that roughened surface, if you've got wind, you've got things like that, that guy that's panning has to know what he's doing.
Yeah.
I hate guys when I'm running a pan. I hate guys following me. Let me pan almost blue. But if we're in an evaporative situation like that, you need it sealed up. You get to that last pan pass where you don't have anything left, you better get it sealed up, because if you leave it open, you're going to be chasing it the rest of the time.
That's good. I think that pretty much nails it for me. Do you guys have anything else to add to that? Jason, do you have any more questions or addition you want to add into the finishing part of it?
Not really. I mean, I would just say, I wonder how many of the companies are still just running their wall lines and their pipes with just a straight combo blade. I see it all the time, and that's a big no-no for us. And then what Zach said about closing up a floor right away, we see that all the time. If we're doing like a deck pour or something that's, maybe we have our lighter machines out there, we can't pan it more than about 2 times. You got to be closing it up, especially on some of those deck mixes that we try to push back on, but you can't change some of those deck mixes.
Right.
So some of those you pan it once and you almost got to close it up. So I mean, go ahead.
I think he was just agreeing with you. Steve was just really agreeing. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey, okay. But I do have one thing to say, Rock. We didn't cover that's really important. I mean, nobody's mentioned checking and double checking with the laser as you go back.
These are huge.
So you grade. I mean, we check every pass. We spot checking all the time. We have 2 lasers set up. We have a small one and the big one, but we are always checking that grade, because that you can get off grade.
Sure.
If you're not careful. Check and double check that laser.
Okay, so we got our finish. We're pulling machines. What are we looking at now? Obviously, we know that most commercial work has a spec for a cure. What are we looking at if it's not in our specs? What are we kind of looking for? What water? I know the water cure thing's a huge thing. We talk about that often, but I also know the white pigmented cure is often spec'd. Where are we going with this in terms of are we putting this down saw cut, pre-saw cut, post-saw cut? Can we wait until tomorrow to put it down? And when should we do it with our saw cuts? Can we wait till tomorrow to saw cut?
Absolutely not.
No.
And I'm curing the same day.
Okay.
And I'm water curing. I'm using water.
Yeah.
That's when we go into a job, that's what we recommend. That's what the best results we've got with abrasion resistance and everything is the water cure. We use the water cure blankets.
Okay.
And they're good for 7 days. I mean, you wet your surface, you flatten them out with a broom, you lay them down, and they'll stay. You don't have to keep like the old days when we use soaker hoses and water run everything everywhere. It's to hold the moisture. I think that's the best cure you can get in concrete. That's just my opinion.
Sure. Now, are you getting any lines or any discoloration from that?
No.
Okay. Good. So water cure is huge, obviously. Zeb, what are you guys doing for cure?
Every job's different. A lot of the commercial work we're seeing, there'll be a spec for like a Spec Chem E-Cure, spray soon as we pull the trowels off, before we saw cut. If it's something that there is no spec, absolutely water cures we're doing. It seemed like for so many years we were getting all these specs to do like a cure and seal, and I'm so glad we're getting away from that.
Yeah.
We're seeing more and more of like these water cures are like an E-Cure, and so we like, especially with this type 1L, it needs moisture. It's just starving, for hydration. And so the quicker you can get that water on it, and the longer you can keep it on there, like Steve said, a week, if you can do that, if your job allows you to do that, you're going to have the best results. And so,
and that those blankets.
I might add one thing about that. What I've seen is on a wet cure. A wet cure to me is wet for 7 days, but then dry for another 48 hours afterwards. In other words, no additional water. So 7 days with water, moist, a couple of days afterwards dry, because I've seen many jobs where the blankets come off after 7 days. And when you do that, you get a lot of slab curling because the surface dries out so quickly. If there's a breeze blowing through the building or whatever, it'll dry that surface out. So keeping the blankets on but no water, just dry cure for another couple of days, slows that process down, retains that moisture in the slab a little longer, and then you can take them off, and the curling is much less.
very good.
Matt, what are you guys doing for cure? What's typical in your way?
A little bit of everything. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it's a wet cure, dissipating. Sometimes a densifier, saw cut, then cure. Pretty much job specific.
Right. Now, what about sealers? Are you guys seeing much in spec for? I know. We just talked about the cure and seal. And Zeb, when you say the cure and seal, you would do your spray, your cure right away, post finish, and then come back 28 days later and then seal.
No, a lot of the products it seemed like we were using a 25 acrylic cure and seal on a lot of these slabs. They'd be called out, and I didn't like it.
Sure.
I don't think it was the right type of sealer, but that's what everybody was using, and so these, they'd be getting specced out. But I really don't like to put any kind of sealer on the floor, to be honest with you. I would just assume, use cures only. But there's this, to me, it's another liability for the contractor.
Sure.
For something to go wrong, with sealers. Now, there is jobs that we're specced out and we have to use them and we have to stand behind them and deal with it. But, and then we're the type of guy that we're like thin to win. We don't want to over seal stuff,
Sure.
And so it's just, I don't know. If it's up to me, we try to stay away from any acrylics type sealers if all possible.
Steve, what do you guys do?
Scope. There's a flooring sector to the spec book. I think sealers belong to those guys. We'll cure it. If you want to do something to make it look pretty, they can do it.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, some of those sealers won't bond if you're getting covering. I mean, you got to be real careful of what you're putting on that floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Are you guys doing a seal on a typical basis, Steve?
A lot of times, smaller jobs like these garages and stuff, but you really got to be careful. Like I said, we'll actually roll everything, because a lot of guys, if the guy's wanting to get off and he's putting too much on, you get puddles in the floor, then you got a problem.
Yep.
I mean, you can go back and remulsify it again, but still, we have, I think it's people want to know, well, what's going to protect the grease, but it is a maintenance item. It will go away one day. So you got to be prepared to come back in, and I'd let them know. I said, it's not going to last forever. You're going to have to take all this stuff off and redo it and clean it. And, so, we do it for decorative for sure. When we do decorative with colors, but not a lot. I mean, not on big floors. I'd rather I like the water cure, but a lot of times, like you said, depending, whether you're that 30-day stuff.
30-day stuff.
I got a question on the water cure
yeah, go ahead.
I got
Jason.
a question to Don. He said the wet cure for 7 days. With my experience with the plastic for water cure, you put it down, you flood it once, you walk away. How are you going to the 7 day point I mean, my experience is it's still holding moisture there. So what do you mean by the blankets being, dry for a couple of days?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know what you're particularly using for the blankets. I'm not familiar with what those are, but let me just take an example. The floors that we always did, we always wet cured. We would flood the floor, and then we would squeegee down a 4 mil poly over the top of that. And we'd take all the wrinkles out of it. And over the top of that, we'd put our burlap just so we could soak it down and not have to mess with it for 3 or 4 days. So, 100, I mean, ACI tells you that you can do 120 hours of wet cure and 48 hours of dry cure, and you're good. And, unless you have some strange circumstances going on where you don't have a roof over your head, maybe you want to add time to that. But that method turns out a wonderful, dense, abrasion-proof floor, and it works, and it's cheap.
So you're pulling the plastic off and then putting the burlap back down for a couple of days, is what you're saying?
I'm leaving the plastic in place, but I'm not wetting the burlap anymore.
Okay. You're just not wetting it down.
Okay. Yeah, let the burlap dry out. Right.
And if you're using absorbative blankets, Jason, just leave them on until they can't function with them on the floor anymore. Hey, come pick these up. Then that way you're covered. You're getting the 7 days, and then it's drying out as it wants to.
And it does protect the floor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you can now. One job we did, we left them on a little longer than 7 days, and it actually stuck to the floor. We had to clean it off, but yeah, it actually started once you leave it so long. But that's only one time that's ever happened. I called the manufacturer in and said, "Man, you got to show me something here because I've never had this happen before." And of course, it was my fault.
Of course,
you used the wrong water.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think it's like you say. I mean, certain jobs have certain specs, but if I'm doing industrial floor, it's usually water cure.
Yeah. Yep. Well, guys, do you have anything else to add to this that you think our viewers need to take from a commercial standpoint to face this 1L cement that we're dealing with right now? I think we've really beat it down. I know there's been a lot of good information, as well as the previous panels, guys. If you haven't seen them, go to the Concrete Everything CESYK Live YouTube channel. They're all in there, as well as a lot of other ones from the vaults. Check those out, listen to them when you get some time, but there's some good information. Make sure you're doing everything you can to stock your toolbox with the right tools you need to deal with this stuff. So that's kind of why we're here tonight. All these guys want to help. If you're having issues, don't be afraid to reach out to any of us. That's what this page is about, and that's why we're here. We want to address this, and we want to tackle it together. So anything else, guys?
Warranty.
Ooh,
all that documentation you kept from the moment pre-bid and all those, make sure that goes into your warranty. Just to the I told you so. So that way a year later when they pull that piece of paper out and you said, remember when I said I wanted a 0.44? Oh, you're having issues with DLM? Here's why I said this would happen. Just another CYA. Yep. Just making sure you're doing it along the way and include it in the final document that protects you or that you have to abide by for the next 365 days.
Well, one thing too, Rocky, I think, and I could ask Zeb and Jason, and everybody, but I'm having to have a few more men on the job to run, to keep the equipment going and depending. I mean, I'm having to add a couple more guys. To be sure I'm covered, be sure something goes wrong. So
manpower's cheap.
There's no beer time today. No beer time with this 1L.
No, you got to be on your game.
Yeah, there's going to be a real clip. That's a good one. There's no beer time with this 1L. All right, guys. Well, I think we kind of got this when we've been through it. We're going to do this again in a couple weeks. I think next Sunday's Father's Day, so we're going to skip one and we'll have another topic that we're going to address and address it from a 1L standpoint. So I appreciate everybody here for tuning in. I appreciate you guys on the panel. As always, your expertise is a blessing around here, and we love to pick your guys' brains. So from all of us here at Concrete Everything, share your knowledge, CESYK Live. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Rocky.